Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Balkanizer. And today we're looking at maps, just trying to get some ideas together about this area, the Western Balkans, in, let's call it the early part of the first millennium, or more than that, into the second part of that millennium as well, but just from Roman times up until Charlemagne, really. And just seeing what information these maps, what ideas they stimulate, and so on. Most of these maps are from it's actually my wife's atlas, school atlas, this one, historical atlas. So if viewers can't read Cyrillic, they'll just have to sort of listen to what we're saying. But it's all fairly familiar if anyone knows anything about the sort of topography here. So this atlas, which was the chief editor, was Professor Dr. Miloš Vlagajovic. And the one map is from this book, Srpska zemlja pre Nemanjića. So it's about the Serbia before the Nemanjić dynasty. And that's just one of the maps, and there might be in the future other maps from there.
Yeah.
So, Charlie, any starting initial thoughts?
Yes, what can we say? I mean, it's the dominant geography, of course, is the same as it always was, isn't it? The Danube is the northern boundary, the Adriatic,
Yes.
the southern boundary, and these inhospitable mountains in between. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have
Black
Dalmatia.
Highlands.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
this was a
Yes, well, let's have a look at the names. Yes.
that's right. So Dalmatia, so the main province you can see here right in the middle. That's Dalmatia, and we still talk about that as a geographical region, but it was actually a province of the Roman Empire, which was brought into being, I think, in 9 AD after there was the Illyrian or the Illyricum uprising. So the people, there was quite a big revolt, and they had to put it down with major force. And then it was established then as province. So
Yes, I was going to ask actually. I'd forgotten about that. That's how the change occurred, was it,
Yeah, there
between
was a province called Illyricum,
Illyricum
wasn't
and
there?
yeah.
But somehow this came
It's in Shakespeare, isn't it? Was it Twelfth Night? This is Illyria, my lady. Was it?
Yeah. Yeah, and of
Uh,
course, Illyria is mentioned in the Bible as well. You know, the Apostle Paul
mhm.
says that he preached in Illyricum, Illyria.
Right.
Um, and it's a recurring theme, isn't it, in the history of this area, the Illyrian movement,
Yes.
um, sort of 19th century movement. So identifying with those
Yes.
people.
Claims and counterclaims
Yeah,
of
that's
who
right.
was here first. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So that's, and Dalmatia here goes sort of right up into what's Bosnia now and sort of Western modern Serbia, isn't it? Looking at that.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. But it seems the Lower Pannonia province covers the Sava and the Danube, doesn't it? Well,
yeah,
the
that's
Danube, of
right.
course, is the
That's right.
border. Yeah.
Um, so we'll see that a bit closer on the next map. This the area around what's now Belgrade and so on. Um,
And yes, Mercia and Upper and Lower Mercia and
and then Dacia, the other one in the which is sort of Romania.
right, yeah,
And that's
yeah,
why, you have Dacia, these cars, because it's based on the name of
yes,
the Roman
the
region. So
Roman
that's
name of the
still,
province, yes.
yeah, yeah. So that's roughly what the Roman map looked like. Pannonia, of course. So we hear this in modern Serbia, nor in Vojvodina here, that people
Hmm.
talk about Pannonia. They'll use it in the name of the company, and it's the same in Hungary. Because that was
Right,
also um, there's a town called Szombathely, which was Savaria, which was at the center of Pannonia at one
right, right.
stage,
Hmm.
and that still has a
And
strong
it's
link.
known as the Pannonian Basin, isn't it?
Yeah,
Geographically, I mean, or geologically, is
Y-
the area of the Pannonian Sea. Is that
Well,
right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah. So you have the Carpathian Basin, but yeah,
Aha,
Pannonian
right, right, right. Yeah.
within that.
Hmm.
But the general term uses Carpathian, but then yeah, Pannonian is also referred to.
It was the Pannonian Sea I'm thinking of. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So let's look at the next one. Oh yeah, this is about the how the forts, basically the forts along the Danube were, the line that held the northern extent of the Roman Empire in much of the time of the Roman Empire.
Yes. What is
So
that the term that I'm getting right? Is it the limus,
yes,
the
that's right. Yeah.
where we get the term liminal, the border, the boundary area?
Yes, yes, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. Maybe limit even comes from that. I don't know.
Possibly. Yeah.
There's
Hmm.
some connection with limit. Um,
It'll be interesting to
so,
look at that. Yeah. Etymology.
um, yeah, so all the way up there, I suppose towards what sort of is it in the direction anyway of Novi Sad? What now is here, isn't it? Because you have the Tisa, here's the Tisa, and there's the
Hmm.
Danube, and that's the sort of parallel.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, I was looking at the names of some of the fortresses there. Of course, the larger cities are all there, aren't they? We've got Singidunum, which is Belgrade. We've got
yes,
well,
and
yeah,
also
Sirmium is
Smirium. That's now Sremski Mitrovica, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Smirium.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe on the next map we can see that a bit clearer. So here, yeah. So here we have, um, as you said, Singidium. That's Belgrade there, and here is
Sirmium,
Sirmium,
yeah,
yeah,
Sirmium.
which is Sremski Mitrovica.
And Viminatium it's a fascinating place to visit. Have you been there?
No, I haven't. So tell me about that.
Right. Hmm. Well, it's they've got quite extensive archaeological digs going on there.
Yeah,
It's a large Roman settlement. I think it grew. I may be wrong, but I think it's thought of more as a late Roman rather than an early Roman
I
settlement.
see.
But it was
Hmm.
it was one of the largest urban settlements in the region for sure,
Yes.
and it's been quite widely excavated because it's actually on top of an open cast coal mine. So there's they're doing quite a lot of rescue digging um, before it all gets
So
taken away
basically, what everything you see there
from
is
the
a
coal
sort of
mine.
late Roman, is it?
Yeah, yeah, and they've got this quite interesting. Um, these are pre-Christian. It's a pre-Christian necropolis or
Oh,
cemetery there,
all
which is
right.
quite
Okay,
extensively
so that's
excavated.
another parallel thing there as well, because the late Roman would be Christian, wouldn't it? But in
Well, yes,
addition,
I
there
think
was
it's
some other.
it's it's still this is still not pre-Christian. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're going
At
to look at
least
a map about
the
that in a minute,
customs
anyway.
there. I
Yeah.
mean, the region may have been in the process of Christianization, but
Yes.
the tombs that you can actually go into
Hmm.
are um, uh, uh, are pre-Christian.
I
So
see. Yeah. Uh-huh.
they've set it up so that you actually go underground and you can sort of pop your head up inside one of these painted tombs, so
Oh,
you can
really?
see the paintings on the inside of the tombs, which is it's an interesting
Oh,
experience.
it's survived. Yeah. Uh-huh. So the paintings have survived. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the paintings that were painted on the inside of the sarcophagus. These are sort of constructed tombs,
Yes.
sort of with a brick vault plastered on the inside and painted with all sorts of scenes from classical mythology and that sort of thing.
And interesting. I'm just looking at this map. We have this province between Macedonia and Messia Prima called Dardania, and interesting because I just think of the Dardanelles, between Europe and Asia. Um, I wonder what the connection is. I mean, I don't know anything.
Yeah, yeah. I'm afraid I can't
Yeah, and
enlighten
there was
you.
this other province covering something like modern day Montenegro. Can you see that? Called
Yes,
uh, was it
Prevaletania or something like.
Privali? Yeah, Privalitania. Yeah, Privalitana. Hmm. Um, So there, and then Salona was one of the Salona that's on the coast there of Dalmatia. That was one of the major towns, cities in that period.
Yes, even in Roman times, of course, that central area was important for silver mining. The mines which later,
The mines were inland there, were they?
yeah, it's in again in the Kosovo region, that sort of area,
Oh, I
and there
see, in the
were
Kosovo region. Uh-huh. Yeah.
yes, there were Roman there was Roman silver mining going on there as well. So it was quite a good source always of precious metals.
Yes, and I think it's still they still have mines there. Yeah, it's
Oh
still
yeah, yeah.
it's
Hmm.
still quite serious. Okay, so here's one which shows basically the progress of Christianity. So we have in the Roman Empire, so you have the green, which was is that the third century? Yeah, third century, I suppose,
Yes, third
green,
century. Yeah,
and then this sort of orangey color is the fourth, and then the fifth is the lilac. Um, so just to see how the classical, obviously the classical urban areas like Thessalonica, that was like from the first century. I think it says in the legend that substantial populations of Christians. So
yes, yeah.
there were Christians everywhere in the Roman Empire, but this is where there were considerable um, populations, and obviously by the end of the fifth century, it was most of the empire.
It
Um,
is interesting, isn't it? It shows quite clearly that this was an urban phenomenon.
yeah.
I mean, growing out from the urban areas of
Yeah, and it's interesting that this
Constantinople,
central region, which,
Thessalonica,
yeah,
um,
this sort of southern
the
Serbia,
mouth of the Rhone there. Yeah.
yeah, and you can see that this region here looks to me like sort of southern Serbia, Kosovo, this kind of northern Macedonia here.
It's an interesting pocket, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that things, there were substantial Christian populations there earlier than in the generality of the Balkans. Okay, so next is yeah, the Byzantine Empire at its greatest extent, i.e., so the Roman Empire, sort of strict purists will say, yeah, it's the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Um, the Roman Empire shifted its center to Byzantium, to Constantinople, and then the greatest emperor in terms of the extent of the empire was Justinian. So he started with the paler color around around Constantinople, so Balkans and Asia Minor, Levant area, Egypt. That was all um, what he inherited, and then he managed to um, take control of Italy and part of northern Africa, southern Spain, and the western Balkan region there. Um,
Yes.
so again, looking at our region, that was like on the edge, we could say, couldn't we, of that? Um, so southern Serbia was definitely inside that area. And I think we've discussed this before, haven't we? How many Roman emperors came from this region. Um,
Yes, the late Roman emperors, a lot of them did, didn't they? Yeah, yeah. I mean, Constantine, of course, from Nice, um, well, Diocletian from set up
yes,
his retirement home in what is now Split
that's right. That's right.
on
Yeah.
the Adriatic coast, and then Galerius, who was from the region of Zayacha, what is now Zayacha
Yeah, so he was from there, was he? That was his home district.
yes, yes. Well, his fortified villa, if we want to call it that, his palace there at a place which is now called Gamzigrad was Romiliana. Was his name for it, which is his apparently his mother's name. So it was where
Oh, right. Okay. Uh-huh.
his mother was from at any rate. Yeah.
So you've done some work on the Byzantine period. Would that be the later period around or the middle period, sort of Cyril and Methodius? Was that principally what it was
Well,
focused on?
I recently, yes, helped with the editing of a couple of longer texts on well, 9th century and 11th and 12th century Byzantine involvement in the Balkans. The first one was about Byzantine church policy in the after the triumph of Orthodoxy. So that's 850s, something like that.
Right.
From the early 850s on through to till the death of Photius, which is I think I can't remember exactly, but I think it was when was it? Coming up for 870, 860, 67. Yes, it was 867. Photius is no 886
Yeah, he died
actually, because
later, didn't he? I mean, that he was
yeah,
flourishing in the
he had two
870s or so. Yeah.
stints as patriarch. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So,
So
so
that was the period that I was covering. Yeah, so that's the um,
okay. So we have, and of course, Cyril and Methodius are the great missionaries to the Slavs
yes. Mm-hmm.
there described. So this is the thing about the um, Slavic population. The title, the legend says Slavic tribes from the
Yes.
7th to the 9th century. Um, so basically, before the Hungarian conquest, you had these Avars in the Carpathian Basin here, and this huge sea of Slavs uh, covering the surrounding area right up into this northern region here. Um,
Yes, and strangely
so
down
and
into Greece
yeah,
there. Yeah.
and there's this whole question of the Slavic migration, which really there is not a lot of information about. So suddenly we have Slavs. So Slavs appear in the written records,
Mm.
in the sort of 6th century that there are obvious references to them. Um, and the question is how they came to be there. It's a sort of slightly debated topic. So the sort of standard view is that there was this massive migration and they all came in that period, but other people would maintain that they were there already or they'd been there for a longer time.
It's always very difficult to make these distinctions, isn't it? I mean, and even with Anglo-Saxon Britain, where you've got the invasions of the Anglo-Saxons, quite what the process of ethnogenesis was there, the blending of different peoples, and so on. I suppose in Britain, yes, we have the language, so it's clearly a Germanic language. With the Slavs, it's unclear, isn't it? I mean, what was spoken there before?
Yes, it's interesting. I mean, Cyril and Methodius had some insight into it, isn't it? They could create this language, this script, which expressed the language, and the people were very sort of satisfied with it. Um, so obviously, whatever exactly the Slavs or whoever exactly they were, for example, around Thessaloniki.
Yeah,
So there's an account called The Miracles of Saint Demetrius, I think, and there's a lot of information, and it mentions these sort of Slavic sieges of Thessaloniki.
right. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because it's far
so
from clear, isn't it, whether to what extent Cyril and Methodius were Slavs or Greeks. I
well,
mean,
that's it. That's
they
it. I
may
mean,
have been a
precisely,
mixture of both.
precisely.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
and there are all sorts of suggestions that they were all, earlier uh, forms of the attempts to form a written language from the Slavic languages that were being spoken around
before
then.
then,
Yeah.
before they did it, there were attempts made.
I think there are suggestions that was the case. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think the evidence is very scanty, but the suggestions that perhaps uh, Cyril and Methodius were basing their work on stuff which had already been attempted earlier in the Thessalonica region. As
yeah. That's
as
interesting.
would be
Yeah,
quite natural. I mean,
of course.
when you've got people there interacting with the very literate Greeks and converting to Christianity, etc., etc. So it
Yes.
would make sense that some such processes were underway. but yeah, that's what we know about anyway. The Glagolitic um, alphabet that they developed,
Yeah.
and
Well,
they
that's
developed it for their mission to Moravia, essentially,
yes.
this area around the what's now um, Czechoslovakia,
Yeah.
or the Czech Republic, or Slovak Republic, or Bohemia, if you
Yes.
prefer,
Yes.
that sort of area.
That's right. That's
Um,
right. So,
but then the Germanic Christians sort of forced the um, Methodius, or yes, well, I think Methodius was forced out essentially of that area, and they were insisting on the Latin, the liturgy in Latin, and um, they were
I mean, a
victorious
serious conflict. That
in
was
Moravia.
serious. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. So the Western,
but that's what brought Methodius back down into the Balkans,
yeah,
and
yeah. I think it's an interesting period to study closely exactly what happened then. But there was a lot
mm,
of maneuvering, and who was it? Which one went to Rome? One of them went to Rome, didn't he?
yeah, Cyril, where he died in Rome. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sure there's lots of interesting details there if one looks into it. Um,
Well, yeah, Methodius went south into the Balkans, and his main disciple was Clement, of
yes, of
course, Clement of
course, and
Ochrid.
that's
Yeah,
Ohrid, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
and Clement of Ohrid. That was like Ohrid was like the sort of base, if you like, of the
yeah,
ongoing evangelization of the Slavs.
and that factors into the other uh, text that I read, which is about the Byzantine province of Bulgaria, because after, there was a long um, period of of warfare between the Byzantines and the Bulgarians
Right.
under their Emperor Samuel.
Yes.
But Samuel was finally defeated, and in I think it was 1019 that the Byzantines took control of Bulgaria and established the bishopric of Ohrid,
Yes.
which
Yes. Yes.
covered most of that territory of the Central Balkans.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Well, that's
that
that's
was
a topic in itself, isn't it?
mm,
So, and here, right, going the wrong way. This is the next one. Slightly distorted, just to fit in here in a nice way. Um, but this was sort of interesting. Um, that again showing this is for the 6th to 7th century, basically
mm,
showing Slavic populations here around the Danube and here in what's now Serbia, Bosnia, Eastern Croatia. Um, and then we have what they call Greek. That was the Roman Empire, still the Byzantine Empire. And the hatching is something called, it says Romans. The Serbian legend here says Romani. And we were just speculating before recording who they were exactly, but they occupied, according to this map, sort of mountainous central region, right down, including the central mountains of Greece. Um, so we're sort of interested to know who they were. Also, the sort of Balkans proper. So this is the Balkans proper, I think, this area, isn't it? The mountain range
yes.
here is the Balkans.
I yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I assume that must refer to something akin to the Romano-British in the British Isles after the fall of the Roman Empire, right? These were residual populations of Romanized locals who were
Yes,
living within
yes,
Slavic polities, but I
yes.
really don't know.
But it's
Um,
interesting how they were confined to these sort of central mountainous regions, isn't it? I mean, it's
That implies, doesn't it? Yes, some sort of retreat from the lowlands
yes, yes,
into
yes,
more
yes.
inaccessible areas.
Right.
Yeah.
That could be an explanation. Yeah, yeah. And then we've got the
What?
mixture of Slavs and Greeks. In that's the where you have these vertical lines. So
Mm,
again, showing how a long way to the south, we have this idea of Slavs. Um,
This sort of blending zone. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. And just to tie in with the last, no, not the last one. Okay, we'll see it in the last picture about this thing of Slavs being right down into what we would call southern Greece now. Um,
But yes, by the ninth century, these that Slavic penetration was again being reversed, and you get this process of re-Byzantinization. The central authorities in Constantinople
okay, so they
slowly
had sort of
re-established
like
control over
relocation
those areas.
policies, or what kind of
I think it was
approach?
more a slow process of acculturization, really. Yeah,
Oh, right,
yeah,
it was more like that. Yeah, uh-huh.
yeah. That they would give Slavic chieftains Byzantine titles, and then
Okay,
the
so
next
these chieftains were
generation.
still non-Christian in a way, and they were being converted this way. Is that the idea?
I suppose so. Yes, I
Yeah,
think in the ninth century we're talking about bishoprics which had still had Slavic, identifiably Slavic names, but which were more or less fully assimilated already into the
right.
Byzantine polity. Yeah, or re-assimilated, we can say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what's known about the extent, would you have before that, would have you had Slavic bishoprics without connection with Byzantine, or were they with Empire? Were
That I
they?
don't know. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
really not sure. Quite.
probably not a great deal of data about that, but
I mean, this process was ongoing all the time. Even Samuel was quite famously penetrated down into northern Greece and reached Larissa, and um,
I
uh,
think the next map, yeah, the next map shows that. Yeah,
yeah.
at
So
least,
yes, of course, yes, that would
yeah,
be
at
yeah.
least some of the way. Yeah.
And he famously stole the relics of the saint Demetrius. Yeah.
Well, from
Uh,
Thessaloniki.
no, this would. I'm not quite sure who the saint was, but I think it was the patron saint of Larissa anyway,
Oh, I see. Okay, okay. So
and
we'll have to check.
took his relics off to Samuel's the center of Samuel's polity in
Ah, ah.
Prespa, south of Ohrid,
Okay.
and
Okay.
um, but of
So that,
course
yeah, this map would sort
that
of
didn't
cover
survive.
that period more or less, wouldn't it?
But it's there,
Um,
the coming and going across that boundary there between just north of Thessalonica, the that mountainous
yes.
region
Yeah,
which
that's right.
separates
Yes.
the northern hinterland from the uh, always more Greek
Yeah, that's right.
controlled
So that's a
coastline.
sort of
Yeah.
key barrier, isn't it? Um, and you see, you had missionaries coming from Rome into that area. Um,
Yes. Well, they yeah. Um, Boris Michael, the Bulgarian Tsar, then he turned to Rome later on um, for spiritual guidance. Quite what the political background to all this was, we're
yes.
not sure, but
Yes. I
um,
mean, this was before any formal schism, wasn't it? So it was a lot of coming and
yes,
going.
yes. Well, we had
Although,
the
yeah,
schism of Photius, at that time, when the Bishop of Rome refused to recognize Photius's patriarchy because
yes, yeah, yeah.
he had been.
So already, yeah, there was the beginning of that
There
process.
was a lot of a discussion as well. I
Yeah,
think the filioque was becoming a problem as
yeah, and
well, even at
Filioque
that
was I
stage.
mean, Filioque was,
Yeah.
established in Charlemagne's reign. So beginning of the
Right.
ninth century, it was,
Hmm.
the Council of Aachen um, supported it. So I
Right, I
think,
see. Right. Yeah.
yeah, well, stated it. I mean,
Hmm.
um, and so I think you had these rival spiritualities, you had two different spiritualities, and that's otherwise you wouldn't have had the persecution of Cyril and Methodius. You wouldn't have had the opposition from the Western clergy
Yes.
when
Yeah.
there was some. Obviously, you could see there some sort of schism, some sort of division.
But yeah,
Um,
both sides were definitely courting the local magnates,
yes,
Slavic magnates, and
well, that's it.
trying to
That's it.
bring them over to one side or
Yeah,
the other.
that's right.
They succeeded with the Croats. They half succeeded with the Serbs, but that was an ongoing question
Yes,
way off on into the Nemanjic period in the High Middle
of
Ages. So
course.
it was only really until St. Sava that it was only then that the Serbs finally
Yeah,
established
so
themselves as
crystallized. Yeah,
an
crystallized.
Orthodox rather than
Yeah,
a,
yeah. He
a
he
Catholic
he established
polity.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And of course, Hungarians. I mean, Stephen. He was crowned 1000. But it was by the
right.
Pope.
Hmm.
So he looked to the Pope, and so although you can find in and have been found in parts of Hungary evidence of Orthodox, of
Hmm.
Eastern monasteries and similar things.
Yeah.
So there was certainly the sort of Byzantine
Well,
rite,
there was a lot of
uh,
intermarriage as well.
typical. Yeah, well, but it existed, within that territory.
Hmm.
But it just became, what's the word? It was marginalized, I think you could say. So,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, Stephen the First of Hungary, he lived before the actual formal schism. Um, but generally things were hardening in the Roman direction, and then you see it in who they called Great Louis the Great of Hungary, not Lajos, that
right.
the Eastern Rite or Orthodoxy, as we could then describe it, as distinct,
Hmm.
was actively persecuted.
Right,
Um,
right, I see. Hmm.
so, um, so
But
yeah.
even in the later period, in the early 13th
Well,
century,
that's
the
the 13th. That's the
Byzantines, yeah,
13th. Yeah. So that's when it had crystallized, that there were two sides of the argument. Um,
hmm,
and you can see, in fact, how Hungary came down on that side in that they made, again in the Middle Ages, they made Aachen a center of pilgrimage. So
right,
instead of
hmm,
sending people, to Thessaloniki or
hmm,
um, even to the Holy Land.
yeah,
People would go to Aachen, so it was that, and Aachen was the center of the, filioquist um, theology and the Charlemagne, the whole. Um,
and a very large and well organized propaganda machine, really, and the whole Charlemagne school and the
yes, yes,
copying of
yes,
texts and
yeah, that's
distribution
right,
of
that's right.
texts
So
all around the
I
region,
mean,
so
you could
on.
say he took everything from Augustine, which was most useful to create a parallel system.
Right,
I mean, I think
right,
this is the
hmm,
um, great theological um, topic, let's say, of Augustine. So Augustine he's seen as an Orthodox saint, but the beginnings of what would be a deviation from Orthodoxy was in much of his theology. Um, I don't know if much is the right word because I haven't read all of it, but a lot of it, let's say. Um, and it was, you know, if you look at Photius, for example, Photius the Great, when he talks about people like Augustine, he says, well, okay, but you don't need to take, you should take the best from these people, you know.
yeah,
If even if they did say something which sounds like filioque, was that really what they were trying to say? What people who were insisting on filioque were saying?
hmm, hmm,
Um, but Charlemagne did exactly that. He took all of the things which were different, so that because he wanted to have he wanted to be the Roman emperor, right? So
yeah,
therefore he had to have the church as well. So
hmm.
therefore it was a decision to have something which was over and against the the Eastern Church. Um, so that's
Yes, well, it is interesting how these things pan out. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So there
and
we go. That's how we have this sort of missionary competition here going on
yeah,
in this map, and then um, hold on, let's go to the next one. For some reason, it's oh right, okay, sorry, yeah, I got there already. Yeah, so here it is. So here is Charlemagne's. You've got the so-called Holy Roman Empire, or the German Roman Empire, as they call it in Hungarian. They call it that. Um,
right.
um, so you can see it covered pretty well all of what's now France and Germany, Western Germany, even Austria, you could say. Noticeably, Brittany was not, at least on this
Yeah,
map anyway.
yeah,
Brittany held out. So that's quite interesting.
hmm
Um,
yeah. One of the longest surviving Celtic polities. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But the interesting thing for me is, again, this bit here, it says Slavic tribes, and it goes right down to the Peloponnese, and this central strip of the Peloponnese. And to me, that's very interesting. I mean, what's the background to this?
Mm.
Um, in terms, if it's defined in terms of they migrated all the way down the center in these mountains or something. I don't know. Um,
So this is at the peak of Charlemagne's
this is, yeah,
power, is
Charlotte.
it?
So
Sort
the
of
peak of
800.
Charlemagne's power.
Yeah.
You have the Byzantine Empire is, sort of eastern, is the coastal Greece, you could say,
Yeah.
Asia Minor, southern Italy, and in fact, yeah, the Balkan coast too, yeah, down
Yeah. Yeah.
up here.
But although they never really managed to take full control over, at least of the Adriatic, there, the Byzantines did reconquer
Yeah, they
quite
did. I mean,
large
they
portions
had
of
a
that.
stronghold right up
Yeah,
to Ravenna, didn't
yeah.
they? Of course, because Ravenna is in the Byzantine style. Uh,
Mm.
so they held on to that for quite a while. Um,
And yes, that portion of southern Italy we tend to forget. There's still sort of Greek-speaking communities
there are
there
apparently,
today,
aren't
aren't
there?
there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's still a few,
yeah,
one or two here
hmm
and there. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's about it, really, in terms of the maps. It was just really, the background to going on to looking at how, um, the Serbian state developed. So you had these, it's written here as Serbs in this area,
hmm Yeah.
um, but it
Because I
was,
remember, I'm just going from, I haven't reread it, but from what Predrag Komatin was saying, yes,
yeah,
um, the the conversion of the Serbs came later. In fact, they were, um, the of course there were earlier Christian foundations in places like Singidun and Belgrade and
mhm.
Sirmium, but that sort of central portion um, of the Balkans where the Serbs were the dominant state.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
right. So, I mean, I
um,
think the point
a
is,
slower
and
process.
yeah, it was tribes, wasn't it? There were these
Mm,
Serbian tribes in
yeah,
the
yeah.
region, and it was really Stefan Nemanja who brought them together. He was the one who unified the Serbs and created a sort of viable Serb state, Serbian state. So,
Yes, yes, but they were all, so always these different parts of the Serbian state. Yes, even under later kings. Rastko himself, Sava, was first the prince of was it Doklia, one of these more
yes, yeah,
southern Serbian
yes,
states. And they in all their charters, the Nemenici talk about the Serbian and maritime lands.
yes, yes.
That's their
They were certainly
title of
present on
their.
the Adriatic, weren't they? Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, so I think this looking at these maps is sort of prelude to that next stage. Looking at there were some prominent Serb leaders like Vlastimir, in the ninth century. Um,
yes, yes, that's a
um,
name I've heard before. There's
so some of these figures came forward, but there wasn't such continuity of one, you know, uh,
well, yes,
extensive state.
either Byzantium or Rome were always dominant in the region, so it was difficult, I think, for the Serbs to establish a fully independent
Yes.
polity until the time of the Nemanja, which coincides not coincidentally with the decline of Byzantine power. Of course, the Byzantines were resurgent after that, but still, uh, um, Nemanja took control around that period of
Uh-huh. Yes, I
the
get your
the
point. Yeah.
Crusade
Yeah. Yeah.
and the siege of Constantinople. Of course, when Sava went to see the emperor and obtained autocephaly for the Serbian church. He went to Nicaea. He didn't go to Constantinople because the Latins were in Constantinople.
Yes, yes, of course.
Mm.
Yes, so that was a time when Serbia could sort of exploit that weakness, I suppose. Yeah.
Yes, in one way, but it was it's hard to say that it was great exploitation, isn't it? Because then he accepted
Yes,
you
maybe that's not the
know,
right word. Yeah, but as a state, I suppose, as a from a
yeah,
political point
yes,
of
it
view.
obtained
Yes,
greater independence, certainly. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
In return for a level of alliance with Byzantium and with the as you
Yes,
say, Alexius, I think, who gave the charters to for Hill and Dar in Athos, and um, that was part of the agreement that Sava made with the emperor and with his father and with his brother later. Um, Stephen the First crowned,
yes, indeed, indeed.
who was,
Okay,
I
well,
think, married to a Byzantine princess as well.
yes, yeah, there
Yeah.
was a lot of intermarriage, wasn't there?
Mhm.
Well, I think that sort of it's everything from these maps that we wanted to talk about today. So it sort of provides, I think, a foundation,
Yes,
and
yeah.
we could go on to talk about that sort of pre-Nemanja period a bit,
Hmm.
maybe next time, and maybe start the Nemanja period. Seems to be a natural um, progress.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll just thank our viewers for tuning in
Great. Thank you.
and wish them all the best until the next